Well, thank you all for being here today. My name is Tom Mustin. I know most of you. I'm the Media Relations Director for the 23rd Judicial District Attorney's Office. Thank you for coming. We're here today, as you know, to talk about crime statistics here in Douglas County, specifically since DA George Brauchler took over with the new 23rd Judicial District in January. We also want to thank a couple of our partners for being here today. Commander Sam Varela with Castle Rock Police, also Commissioner Kevin Van Winkle, and of course, Sheriff Darren with the Douglas County Sheriff's Office. And the way this is going to work is DA Brauchler will speak, followed by Sheriff Weekly, and then we'll open up the floor for any questions you may have. But again, thank you for being here, and now here's DA George Brauchler.
Stay seated. Kidding. Hey, my name is George Brauchler. I'm the District Attorney for the 23rd. I became the District Attorney back on January the 14th, 2025. What's important and my goal in having this presentation right now is to talk about what we set out to do, where we have gotten about 6 months into that very first year of existence, and some takeaways and lessons, and frankly, some significant concerns that I have based on some of the information that we have discovered thus far. Now, this is the first new judicial district in 60 years. It doesn't take a long-time resident of the metro area to know that we're different than the other judicial districts to the north, east, and west of us. The rest of that metro area has taken one kind of an approach to criminal justice, and we set out to take one that was just a bit different. You may remember that back on December the 18th, 2024, we got together over at the Commissioner's Building in Castle Rock. This was the picture of all the super smart, good-looking people here, and you can see some of the same folks that are up here today. This was an opportunity to bring together people at every level of government: municipal, state, federal, local, county, law enforcement, legislators, executives, with the simple proposal to the public, both in and outside this jurisdiction, that starting on January the 14th, we were going to do things differently. And if you'll recall, one of the pledges that I made was that if you come down here to victimize us, you should expect to be incarcerated. And I want to talk about our progress towards that ultimate goal and some of the things that we have determined thus far. Here's some of the takeaways in the first 6-ish months of this first year of existence. First off, we are being victimized in big numbers by people who don't live here. The judicial system supervision has got to get better because it is failing us. And I will give you some numbers specifically to highlight that. And finally, at least within the first 6 months or so, it sure looks like jail works. Let's talk first about this part, that we're being victimized by those who don't live here. There is an organization that works within the building here called Community Justice Services. They're responsible for processing all the people that get arrested and taken to jail. So this isn't going to be statistics that cover every single charge of every single kind through any single means. This is just those folks who have been arrested. Now, their numbers track with a different kind of calendar. They're not going to start counting from January the 14th, and we didn't suss out all those numbers. We just took the numbers they had available from June 1st of last year to May 31st of this year. What we know is this: of those arrested, 26.6%. Did you get that message from Tyler? Emily, that was a big one. That was important. I'm just sorry it wasn't bigger. Douglas County only makes up 26.6% of the arrests. Think about that. Little more than 1 in 4 of the people arrested for committing crimes down here actually call this place home. For non-Douglas County, members make up 47.1%, and candidly, the numbers are probably bigger than that because we have a category that's called unknown homeless, and not homeless in the I live on the street way, homeless in the I don't claim a specific residence in a county way. Some of these people are like, hey, I'm living with my friend, or I'm going from house to house. Transient in nature, but not homeless in the way that Denver likes to accumulate them. Denver makes up 25% of our arrests. 1 in 4 of the arrests processed by CJS are from Denver. Aurora, 19%. Littleton, Englewood, and Centennial make up 17%. And what that tells you is of the arrests that we're making down here for all sorts of crimes, 61% of them come from Arapahoe and Denver. That's a problem. And as a guy who is supposed to be fiscally responsible and a good shepherd and steward for the monies that I'm given here, I'm here to tell you that we are being taxed by other people by paying to take care of the crimes they come down here to commit against our community. Colorado Springs, to the south of us, conversely, 5.5%. I imagine the total for El Paso would be slightly larger, but honestly, the bulk of our crime is coming from north of us, not south of us. We also had the opportunity to pull together some information. It's information that is shared by the DA and the courts. We took a deep dive in it. There are a couple fantastic interns that we have in this office that spent countless hours manually going through information that my hope is soon will be automated and accessible to the public without us having to take up intern time to do this. So, one of the things I wanted to focus on when I took over was we're going to tackle theft-related offenses. We know that other jurisdictions, not just within the state, but within the country, have taken a far more permissive and forgiving approach to that. We're not going to do that down here. That was my pledge. So if you count amongst the theft-related offenses, not just your thefts, but MVT is motor vehicle theft, ID theft, burglary, robbery, which is arguably a person's crime, but it involves property, so we call it a theft-related offense. Our numbers show that of our cases that fall under that category, 16.3% are people that live in Castle Rock, Highlands Ranch, and Parker. I would have added Lone Tree in there too, but they only threw a couple percent in there. It wouldn't have changed much. Denver, almost 1 in 4 of our theft-related offenses are committed by people from Denver. Aurora, more than 14%. If you look at Englewood, Littleton, and Aurora, they're hovering around another 25% total. Colorado Springs, conversely, 4.61%. That tells you who's victimizing us outside of this community. The other thing that we've discovered is that our judicial system, those checks that we have in place to make sure that when someone runs into the criminal justice system, they're less likely to commit offenses, it's not working. Or at least it's not working for us down here. CJS has accumulated some data they shared with us, and they're working on getting better data as well. Pending matters at the time they were arrested down here. Pending matters means they were on bond. They had received a summons for an offense. They were on parole. They had warrants for themselves. Probation, all of those things. 44% of the people arrested over this period of time, that was that year, June 1st to May 31st, 44% were currently with an active case in the criminal justice system. That is inexplicable. It is unforgivable. It's the kind of thing we can and should address immediately. Now, we have our own information that we share with the courts that I told you about. That information shows that for theft-related offenses, the same one, and we broke this down further. These interns did a great deep dive on this. 22% of the theft cases we have, now this isn't just arrests. These are the cases that we get. 22% are on probation. 8% were on parole. That means being supervised arguably by the Department of Corrections after they had done some likely minimal period of time in prison. That adds up to 30%, but wait, there's more. If you add into the parole and probation pending cases that include bond and summonses, and there's about 15% overlap. So there are people that are on parole or probation who have pending cases, right? They come down here to commit crimes. So 15% overlap, that means the total of our theft-related cases, 45% of the people that are committing them already have some active criminal case going on in the system. What in the hell is going on? That's almost 50%. Now you can imagine just off of these two areas, what if we could cut back on the number of Denverites and Arapahoe County citizens who come here to victimize us? What if those people who are on bond, probation, parole, summons, fill in the blank, what if those people could be in a position to be supervised or held kept in incarceration where they couldn't reoffend. Crime in this jurisdiction would plummet. And frankly, despite these numbers, it's headed that direction. One of the things that we have started to see, and again, I'm open to alternative explanations for why this is happening. I'm open to it. We've only been doing this now 6, 7 months. But it seems to me that the premise that there ought to be consequences for criminal conduct, and in our case, we'd like quick, timely consequences for criminal conduct, actually works. From our DA court information for those same theft-related offenses, here's what we know. Before we took over, 64.37%, less than 2 in 3 folks, were getting some type of custody, either being jailed at the time of the offense or getting some type of incarceration sentence after. My goal is to get as close as to 100% as justice deems appropriate. So far, we've gotten to 86.23%. That's not a win in my book, but I have an explanation for why we're not at 100%. 8.16% of those cases are because we asked for jail and the court said no. And remember, the legislature has watered down our property crimes to the point where virtually nothing is mandatory incarceration. It is all to the discretion of judges. Legacy offer means there were offers made on cases that existed before I became the DA. I'm in no position to just simply change those by virtue of a change of administration. That makes up 3.57%. And then the ones that we leave open for an exercise of discretion in exceptional cases are the DA did not request jail, or even further, the DA stipulated to the jail. Those add up to just about 2% of those cases. We're always going to have a case where you're going to look at the person, look at the circumstance and say, or maybe even the strength of the case and say, this is not a jail case. But for us right now, that's about 98% of our cases are jail cases in our mind. Here's what we've seen in terms of the numbers in change. 2022, we were up 7.73%. 2023, up 15%. 2024, up 8%. Since we have taken over, the trend that we're seeing is headed this direction. At the end of this year, we'll be up only 0.37%. That is a win. And our goal will be, of course, as the next few years come into place, we're going to see a decrease in that number. Motor vehicle theft is one specific example where I can show you what we've done and how it's resulted. Now, for us, in 2024, only about 2/3 of folks that committed motor vehicle theft were getting some type of incarceration, either at the front end or the back end. We changed that. We've gone to 100% now. Nobody does not get jail. I know that's like a double or triple negative, but you know what I'm trying to say. Here's how that has turned out thus far. These were what we've seen in motor vehicle theft in the jurisdiction. Up 18% in 2022, up 5.5% in 23, down slightly in 24. Our current numbers for just this year show us on pace to see an over 25% reduction in motor vehicle theft. Felony eluding is another one that I just want to use as an example. And let me just take a moment to back up and say this. What I should have said along the way is there's no way those numbers are just the product of us. The reason that we have Sheriff Winkle here and that we have Commander Varela here and the Commissioner here is this is a joint effort by this community. If we didn't have well-resourced, aggressive, and appropriately supported law enforcement, our first responders, none of this happens. None of this even makes sense. But it's because of their willingness to move forward aggressively in defense of and protection of this community and putting together great cases that allows us to do this. I don't want to short sheet either the idea that resources matter. Commissioner Van Winkle is part of a board of county commissioners that has, and I think Sheriff Winkle will echo this, has said public safety is our number one. This is going to be the safest community in the state of Colorado. We want people that live here to feel safe. We want people to want to move here, businesses, residences, everything. And so they have been tremendous. This is a team effort, and this sort of highlights that with this felony eluding. Before we got here, 71% of folks that ran from the cops got some type of incarceration. Not anymore. And I want to be clear about that too. We are a jurisdiction that values and will protect our men and women in uniform. If you fight with them, expect to go to jail. If you run from them, expect to go to jail or prison. These things are happening and they're going to continue to happen. Here's an example. This is recent. This is a guy named Elliot. Elliot had a well-developed criminal history leading up to this. He had little stints here and there, but no long stretches of incarceration to either correct his behavior or to keep him from hurting others. Well, he came to Castle Rock. He came to the outlet stores, the ones not far from here, the ones I go to probably 2 or 3 times a week, in a stolen car. Well, guess who showed up when they got a hit that there was a stolen car? It was Castle Rock PD. This guy's not from here. He's from Trinidad. He's in a stolen car, and he decides, I don't want to be arrested. Some dudes just don't want to go to jail, man. So he takes off. We're not a no pursuit jurisdiction. We're a you run from us, we're going to get you jurisdiction. That guy right there turned a stolen car and a checkered past into 13 years in the Department of Corrections. That's going to continue to happen down here. Now, final thoughts before I turn it over to Sheriff Weekly. I want to tell you what the early results look like overall for us. In terms of filed cases that we have overall, this is what we were seeing over the last couple years. Up 12%, up 9%. Well, we're on pace right now to see a nearly 10% reduction in overall filed cases of all types. That's a big deal. I used this map back on December the 18th of 2024 to highlight an important principle and honestly a warning to others. Some have heeded it, and that's why we see the downturn in crime in my mind. Some have not, so I want to remind those people out there. My best advice is follow the law. My second best advice is if you can't or won't follow the law, go break it somewhere else. This map highlights the roads you can take to avoid this jurisdiction because at the end of the day, the time spent in the car driving around us will be less than the time you spend in jail or prison. One thing that we need to try to focus on here as we move forward with what is good policy and what is effective. And I say that because I feel like I'm a standalone out here in the metro area. It's not to say that the rest of the DAs don't fight crime in their own way. I'm saying we do it differently. We need data. We need their data. I want to see what Denver, Arapahoe, Jeffco, Adams, El Paso are doing in these areas. Are they seeing better outcomes, worse outcomes, the same outcomes? Do they take the same approach to holding people accountable or a more forgiving approach? And I really would like to ask Denver, what percentage of your crime is committed by Douglas County residents? Because my guess is it ain't 25%. Somewhere along the line here, we're going to have a conversation about how you address the fact that one population comes down to victimize another and how to make that right. Maybe they can build that into that $1 billion budget request to their citizens. That's just the perspective of the district attorney. We're going to keep being accessible to you, but before we take questions, I want to turn it over to the best sheriff that we've got in the state of Colorado. No offense, if Tim Norton or Tom Nestor are listening, I'd have said the same thing about you if we were in your county. But he is a true partner in this law enforcement thing. There are few jurisdictions that have the kind of relationship that we have between the commissioners, police, sheriff, and DA. We should be proud of that, and it's paying dividends. Right now, the great sheriff of Douglas County, Darren Weekly. Thanks, man.
Thank you all. I want to thank the district attorney as well as our law enforcement partners for being here today. The good news is overall in Douglas County, and minus the cities of Parker, Lone Tree, and Castle Rock, which they have their own separate numbers. Right now, this year, crime is down 7%. The good news, it was also down 7% in 2024. The fact of the matter is, a lot of the serious crimes are being committed by people who do not reside in Douglas County. Downstairs in my jail, the inmates that are currently in my custody, 70% of those inmates do not reside in Douglas County. That's a huge number. As the sheriff, I don't decide who's in my jail. That is up to the courts. And so that's an important number to realize. So when you see the statistics that you see, it's very alarming. And fortunately, in Douglas County, all of our law enforcement partners, we work very closely together. Our patrolmen work closely together. Our detectives work closely together. Every single day, we're on the phone working together to solve crimes in our community. Douglas County is a high target. Why is that? We have Santa Fe, we have I-25, we have C-470, we have Parker Road, Highway 83. That's why Douglas County is a high target. The good news is a lot of the crime categories are way down this year. Burglary is down 42%. Motor vehicle theft down 24%. Trespasses to vehicles, so vehicle break-ins, down 31%. Forcible rape, down 34%. And property crimes like vandalism are down 24%. These are not small wins. We are talking about hundreds of people that are not being victimized. And you may ask, well, why is that, Sheriff? That's because of the collaboration that we have, and it's because we are utilizing technology to solve these crimes. We are proud to use flock cameras, license plate readers. That technology is a game changer for law enforcement. It tells our officers on the street in real time when you have a criminal coming into your community and where that criminal is and what the vehicle looks like. We utilize drone technology. Our patrol deputies on the street, when we have somebody steal a car and they decide to dump that car and flee on foot, we throw up a drone with infrared technology to track where that individual is, which is also safer not only for our deputies, but the individual we're going after. Every single one of our deputies is equipped with stop sticks in the back of their vehicle. As the sheriff, I even have a set in my vehicle. We utilize the grappler technology. We are going to do everything that we can to apprehend these criminals as they are committing these crimes. And if we don't catch you at the scene of the crime or fleeing from that crime, our detectives will track you down wherever you are, and we will take the time and we will write search warrants to find you and arrest you and bring you back to the Douglas County Jail. And so our message is simple. Douglas County is not an easy target, and it's no accident why we utilize social media to show our pursuits and to show our apprehensions. And if you commit crimes in Douglas County, we will make you famous because we will record and put out there your arrest. We will continue to evolve and utilize not only technology, but crime analysis. We don't send our deputies and police officers just out there just to drive around. We utilize crime analysis to determine where crimes are likely to occur and when they are likely to occur. And so we're going to continue to do those things. When I became the sheriff and I was sworn in, I said that we are at a crossroads in Douglas County. And what did I mean by that? A lot of people are confused by that. What are you talking about, Sheriff? The stats that DA Brauchler showed was exactly what I was talking about. And we are going to hold the line together in Douglas County to ensure that we have a safe community, safe place to raise a family, safe place to operate a business, and a safe place to send your kids to school. We have the most SROs of any law enforcement agency in the state of Colorado. Property crimes all around Douglas County, so property values all over the metro area are actually dropping. They're actually dropping all around the metro area, except for where? Douglas County. Why is that? Because we invest in public safety. We invest in infrastructure. That's what people want. and that's why people are coming to move here. So, DA Brauchler, I thank you for the time, and I guess this time we'll answer any questions you might have. Okay.
Can you guys touch on how the statistics related to where people are coming from who are committing crimes here compared to years past in Douglas County?
For the jail, I can tell you.
Yeah, they've been pretty similar in years past with the 70% ratio. It varies slightly every single year, but it's been about the same.
For us being brand new, for us being brand new and getting with CJS, it's a lot of self-reported information from these folks. So when I tell you there's a big group, I mean, it must be like 26% that fall into that unknown sort of transient category. That's not homeless. Those are people that either don't tell us, won't tell us, or say, hey, I'm just staying on somebody's couch, or I'm living with someone for the time being. We need better information. I'll tell you the other question that flows from that is, do we know how many people that are committing crimes down here are in the country illegally? No, we don't. That's a question that CJS is now forbidden by law from asking. So while we look to explore what is that unvoted on tax that Denver and Arapahoe citizens put on us by coming down here to commit crimes, what we can't do is know what our failed immigration policies have resulted in terms of crime either. We have an idea, ICE has information, but our ability to share or even collect that information or even ask the damn question has been cut off by a legislature that has that hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil sort of mentality when it comes to this. So comparing year to year, I can't tell you. I can tell you that we're going to get better, at least with citizens and people that will tell us where they're from moving forward. But the immigration piece, I don't know.
Douglas County is growing at a quick rate. It seems undeniable that the bigger you get, the more crime you're gonna see. So how are you guys shifting your approach as the community gets bigger?
Again, we're continuing to utilize technology, use those crime analysis. We're increasing staffing. Just in the last 3 years alone for my agency, we've added 60 deputy sheriffs to both the patrol division and our SRO programs. In Douglas County, our population increases about 2% per year, every single year. And so we can count on that. So every single year, I go to the commissioners and I show them the stats that we have for our jurisdiction and justifications for if we need more patrol deputies. And so we are continuing to grow the amount of officers that we have out there on the street. When I took over as the sheriff, we put a lot of cops right back out there. I eliminated a lot of programs because what people need and what people care about is that patrol officer in their neighborhood, and it makes a huge difference. And so as the population continues to grow, we're going to continue to add staff to meet that need.
Yeah, I'd say similar to that, and with special thanks to the commissioners from Lincoln and Elbert and Commissioner Van Winkle and Layden and Teal, we have been put in a position to fund positions in advance of what we know is coming. So you talk about a growing population, that's true. The state demographer will tell you that one of the fastest growing senior populations in the state of Colorado, if not this part of the country, is right here in Douglas County. So we now have a senior prosecutor who is a subject matter expert in not just elder abuse, but in economic crimes, and there's significant overlap to that. And the point in doing that wasn't to just address our existing stockpile, but to try to minimize future cases through educational efforts, but also by aggressively pursuing those who try to poach and come after our good folks down here. We also have now a senior prosecutor who will do nothing. ICAC is internet crimes against children, like internet luring, stuff like that. We now have a prosecutor that does nothing but feast on a diet of ICAC cases and human trafficking cases. Are we the worst in the state of Colorado? No, and because of that, we won't ever be. We're going to be hyper aggressive on cases that help to protect our children. We also have a senior prosecutor, and we'll do something more formal at another time, that will be embedded with the U.S. Attorney's Office and will help to bridge that gap between our federal resources and our state and local partners in order to make sure that we're bringing the best resourced and most experienced fight to the bad guys that we possibly can. That's part of it. But to address the underlying premise of your question, yes, increased population means increased numbers of crimes, but I don't think it means increased percentage of crime or increased rate of crime. And that's where the efforts of Sheriff Weekly, of the Castle Rock Police Department, our efforts, Parker, Lone Tree, those combined efforts can try to keep that rate moving in the right direction. And while we'll see more numbers, we should see overall a less rate of victimization.
You talked about how there's the different avenues like I-25, Santa Fe, but what brings the criminals here? Do they think there's easy targets in your county compared to other counties, or why would they commit crimes here?
Well, they think it's low-hanging fruit. There's very nice houses, very nice cars, so it's very lucrative down here. Some people leave keys in their cars, they leave the garage doors open, things like that. It's also avenues of escape. So by the time we have a robbery along I-25 or something like that, and a deputy sheriff gets out on scene, that suspect may be in Denver already. But again, that's why we use technology like license plate readers and things like that. So most property crimes are committed with the use of a stolen car. And so we have the ability to send deputy sheriffs to that area as soon as we have somebody with a stolen car come into that area. It makes a huge difference.
What would you encourage residents to do to help protect themselves?
Please ensure that, make sure your vehicle is locked up. If you park a vehicle outside, make sure you remove that garage door opener. Make sure your house is locked up. Make sure you have good lighting. I also encourage people to invest in alarm systems and cameras to keep an eye on your home.
And then can you talk about your policy of like that? We saw that deputy ram the car, but is there a chase policy in Douglas County? Can you talk about that?
I could talk a little bit about it. So we encourage our deputies and we empower our deputies to be law enforcement officers. And we do have a very strict policy that they must follow. We will chase for stolen cars, but there's a lot of different dynamics that are in play there. So if it's in the middle of the day, those dynamics are different. Do we have the ability to capture that suspect later? Is there somebody that's ahead of the pursuit that can put down a set of stop sticks? So every second that pursuit is going on, not only is the deputy pursuing, constantly analyzing whether to continue the pursuit, but so is the supervisor and command staff listening to it. So we recognize how dangerous those things are, but I will tell you, we are very good at it, and we're very good at bringing these things to a safe conclusion.
One other thing I'd throw out there in terms of advice just from I'm a citizen here too, and the father of a bunch of kids. I exercise my Second Amendment rights. I own firearms, and I know a ton of my neighbors who do too. In no way should that be a threat to anybody other than those who would seek to gain access to my house or hurt my loved ones. But it's not just the security cameras. It's not just being smart. It's taking responsibility for your own safety at some level. It's unfortunate we're in a situation like that. Listen, I remember growing up in Lakewood, being able to leave my bike in the front yard for days, and it just stayed right there in my front yard. That's the community we want down here. Do I want people to lock their garages and their doors? Sure I do. Do I want them to have to because we're afraid that Denver and Arapahoe are going to come down here and victimize them? No, I don't want it to be that way. There are definitely things we can do, but this community right here, you mistake us if you think it's just a bunch of wealthy folks sitting around who won't care if you come down here and steal from us. That's a different jurisdiction. That is not the 23rd.
And I think it's important to note that the relationship that DA Brauchler talked about, none of this work that the deputies and the police officers do on the front end means anything if you don't have a district attorney that's willing to prosecute. They put their lives on the line every single day to serve and protect this community. If we did not have a district attorney's office that was willing to fight and put people behind bars that needed to go behind bars, all of their work of putting their lives on the line is for nothing. And so we were very grateful in the 23rd that we have a great partner in our DA's office, because again, none of this matters if there's no prosecution.